We're going to wait and see if Saturday is Bergendemption for Anna.
Let's see.
So, back in 2010, we saw you at the Eurovision Song Contest. And 9 years later, well, you're back to perhaps maybe go back to the Eurovision Song Contest. Anna Bergendahl with Ashes to Ashes. Welcome back to Melodifestivalen.
Thank you.
Now, before we get into Ashes to Ashes, because, I mean, we saw the pictures and the clips from yesterday, there is some epicness happening.
Thank you.
A little bit more element to the staging than your previous entry.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
You kind of did a complete 180 there with what you're doing on the stage. But, of course, let's go back to how, you know, the Eurovision fans got to know you in the first place. 2010, 18 years old.
Yes.
You won Melodifestivalen,
Yes.
which must have been quite a feeling at such a young age.
It was amazing. It was almost too much to grasp. I can't compare it to anything. It's one of the biggest things that have ever happened to me.
And I think what a lot of Eurovision fans should realize is that here in Sweden, Melodifestivalen is actually bigger than Eurovision itself.
Yeah.
So it's the pinnacle of notoriety in music, being a musician in Sweden.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
And so that was at the age of 18, and then you went on to Eurovision. And in the semifinal, it was what many fans consider to be one of the most competitive semifinals in Eurovision history. And unfortunately, you didn't advance. And it was a very, very close point margin as well. So, of course, the experience must have been very deflating for you, but you still continued on. But what was it like, just even the days and hours after this result?
Well, I was very sad and deflated, like you said.
Yeah.
We had kind of high hopes for the number, for the song, and Sweden had always qualified before. So
well, technically, not really.
Tell me about it.
I don't know if you know, 2008,
Uh-huh.
Charlotte Perrelli actually didn't qualify per se.
Because they were guaranteed.
She got a wild card slot,
Right.
but she actually would have missed on the qualification. Not even close. She was actually, I think, 2 places below the qualification mark in 2008.
So they had a wild card to give her?
Yeah, so she technically didn't qualify in
Where was my
2008.
wild card?
Where was Anna's wild card? But I mean, it's also about the journey, right? It's also about the journey that happens afterwards, and you've been on quite a journey since 2010. So, of course, we heard that the press was not the most friendliest to you after this Eurovision. How did you deal with all this?
I didn't read anything in the press. I remember I just went back to our country house in Sweden, and I took a couple of days off and cried a lot. But at the end of the day, I was kind of proud of myself. I was 18 years old. I mean, 200 million viewers, and I did it. I think I did good. So, and then I went on tour in Sweden, and then I started going to the States and working with music, and life continued like it does. And I mean, it's not a huge trauma. Nobody died. I mean, I think I kind of grew from it. So
Absolutely, because we're always measured not by our successes, but by the way we react when we fall. So.
Sure.
It's been definitely a long journey. You've done some stuff in between, not only music, but you've also become a doctor.
yeah, I'm almost a medical doctor. Well, I'm halfway through.
Okay.
So yeah.
It's not an easy process either.
No, it's so hard. It's so much to read, thousands and thousands of pages.
But what inspired you to get into this other side, the medical industry?
Well, my father's a medical doctor, and I'm very inspired by him. He's my biggest role model, and he's always happy when he comes back from work because he's helped people, and I think that's the one thing that we become most happy from is helping other people. And I think that I will be very happy as a medical doctor. I love seeing patients. I love hearing their story. I love trying to figure out what the problem is and solving it.
But do you feel that it's perhaps also the reason why you like music? Because music also has this gift to help people through the lyrics, through the melody, through the production. It feels very kind of, the intentions feel similar as to...
Yeah, sure. And that's what makes me most happy when I get messages from people saying that my music has gotten them through a tough period. And that's the biggest thing about music for me is that when I'm happy, I can put on a song and it makes me even happier. And when I'm sad, I can put on a song and it makes me a little happier.
Right.
So,
right.
yeah.
And as you said, the music didn't stop because you were still releasing music afterwards, and you had a EP release last year.
Yeah.
But how did this all come about? Because I know we talked in the last interview where Ashes to Ashes was done, and everyone's like, you got to put this in Melodifestivalen. I mean, you said at first, of course, you didn't want to do it. Were you completely convinced never again, even last year when you had the EP release?
Yes, I was. I was never going to do it again because it's a music competition, and I think that the one thing that people generally don't recognize is that it takes a lot of courage. Because you're scrutinized by the press, by the viewers, and they go into every little small detail, and it's tough. It's really tough, and I think that the artist competing, deserves a lot of credit for the courage that we have.
Absolutely, and it's, as you said, to me, of course I love Eurovision, I love Melodifestivalen, but when you add the word contest in, it's so weird because why should music be a contest? Music should be, it just ends up being, the preference or, that determines the winner. Sure. Because it's not saying it's the better than the other songs. Music is music. But with Melodifestivalen, what was the turning point? Like, was it a gradual, okay, yeah, okay, I'll do it? Or was there like a moment where you're like, yes, this has convinced me?
Well, you only live once. YOLO. I love the song. I think it's so powerful. I think it's unstoppable. I just couldn't say no. I found myself, I can't say no. I had to do it.
But I mean, the staging, let's get to that, because you've ditched the Converse, you've put on some heels.
Yes.
You're working with Dennis and Zine, who did Benjamin staging last year. I was sitting there for rehearsal, not expecting anything. Then I see a forest. Not even a CGI forest, a real-life forest.
Yes.
So what is all the inspirations? How does the staging and, the image you want to portray, how does it all fit with Ashes to Ashes?
Before I met Dennis and Zine, I had this little vision of something fairy tale-y, but I didn't know exactly what it was going to be. And then they presented their vision, and they were like, Anna, you're going to be in a forest. And I was like, yes, I am going to be in a forest, because the lyric is very metaphorical like that. It has a lot of nature imagery in it, and I think it fits very well with the song because it's me coming back to myself, and as human beings, I mean, we're most natural in nature, and going into a forest is very soothing for me, and I think they did very good. They're so intelligent like that. I think it's spot on.
It's a very strong image. It's almost like its own music video when you see it on the screen, see you walking around in the enchanted forest.
Yeah.
But lyrically, Ashes to Ashes, what was the inspiration behind that for you?
Well, it's a biblical metaphor. Ashes to ashes. I know the Swedish expression. I don't know the English expression in the Bible, but and I'm not Christian like that. Right. But I have some kind of faith. Right. But the sense is that one day we will all be back in the earth, and that's the circle of life, and we might as well do all that we can do while we're alive. And also, as a medical student, I see people struggling for their lives every day, and nothing is for granted. Tomorrow is not for granted, and we shouldn't take it for granted. Right. And I sure don't.
Now, of course, we'd like to keep it on the outside and say it's about the song and how viewers receive it. But of course, because it's you, there's a lot of press around you coming back. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of talk about you having what's been called the best slot, the 7th spot in the semifinal. Mm-hmm. Do you feel that this is kind of adding to something, or are you just completely ignoring this and saying, I'm just going to do my thing?
I think all of the artists feel a lot of pressure. And for me, I feel a lot of pressure, so there's not much more pressure to add to it.
Right.
I mean, it's already
all
full.
The artists are feeling anyways.
Yes.
Yeah. And is there any element for you where you feel like this is also a redemption moment to kind of prove and say, I'm still strong, I'm still doing my music? Is there an element to that, you think?
Sure. No matter the results, this this is a redemption for me, because I think that I developed as a singer and as a songwriter and as a person, and doing this number is very healing somehow. It heals me.
So you're just happy just to let it out, do it on the stage, and have that moment again?
Yes.
Well, definitely, it is perhaps time for some Bergendemption. I like it, Bergendemption. It kind of goes with it.
Yes.
You definitely have a lot of people, not only in Sweden but outside Sweden, cheering you on, ready to watch you back on that stage again. What can we expect? I mean, perhaps it might be another Eurovision. You might be going to Tel Aviv, but afterwards, what can we expect? Do you have an EP in the works, or are you going to promote your...
Yes, we've got a lot of music coming out. There's an EP coming out later on in the year, a record, which is a lot of fun to do. It's not very normal nowadays to get to release a whole record, so I'm very happy about that.
And how do you find time for all this? Because you just mentioned you're halfway through your medical studies.
Yeah, I got 3 days off from the university. I'm very happy about that. But for me, it's like different parts of the brain working. So I'm studying half the day, and then I go into the studio, and they inspire each other. So it works out pretty well.
And you also had some stints with the UN, being an ambassador. Sure. What was this around?
I'm a Goodwill Ambassador for the Swedish United Nations Association, and I work with a project called GIRL, which works against something called female genital mutilation and child marriage. And I'm a feminist, and I'm kind of political, and I think that one of the most important issues is female rights and girls' rights.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, it's definitely strong to, of course, try to stand for those who might not have the ability to do it anywhere in the world that we are.
Yeah.
Wow, that's incredible. Medical student, UN Goodwill Ambassador, musician, and doing Melodifestivalen this Saturday in Gothenburg. Anna Bergendahl, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
We're going to wait and see if Saturday is Bergendemption for Anna.
Let's see.